Some things happen in the dark that your mind refuses to accept in the daylight. These 8 stories will make you check every lock in your house tonight. Before we start, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment with where you're from and what time you're watching. Now let's begin. My name is Ashley Brennan, and I'm 27 years old. What happened to me 6 months ago in my apartment building still makes me sleep with every light on in my house. I just moved into a new place in downtown Portland, an older building that had been renovated but still kept that vintage charm. 5 stories, narrow hallways with carpet that muffled footsteps, and thin walls that let you hear your neighbors' TVs at night. My apartment was on the 3rd floor, 3B, and directly across from me was 3A. For the first 2 weeks, I never saw who lived in 3A. The door stayed closed. No sounds came from inside, and I figured maybe it was empty or the tenant traveled a lot for work. I didn't think much about it until the night I heard the crying. It was around 2 a.m., and I woke up to the sound of a woman sobbing. Not quiet, restrained crying, but deep, gut-wrenching sobs that sounded like someone's world had just ended. The sound was coming from right outside my door, in the hallway. I looked through the peephole and saw her, a woman in a white nightgown, standing in front of apartment 3A, her face in her hands, shoulders shaking with each sob. Her hair was long and dark, hanging down past her shoulders, and she was barefoot on the cold hallway carpet. My first instinct was to help. Maybe she'd locked herself out, or maybe something terrible had happened. I opened my door, and the second I did, she stopped crying. Just stopped mid-sob like someone had hit a pause button. She lowered her hands from her face and looked at me. Her eyes were wrong, not red from crying, but completely white. No iris, no pupil. Just white all the way across like milk poured into empty sockets. "Did I wake you?" she asked. Her voice was perfectly calm now. No trace of the sobbing I'd just heard. "I'm so sorry. I was locked out of my apartment. I couldn't speak, couldn't move. Just stood there staring at those white eyes while my brain tried to process what I was seeing. Could you let me use your phone?" she asked, taking a step toward me. "I need to call my husband. He'll come let me in." Something in my gut screamed at me to slam the door, and I listened. I shut it right in her face and locked every lock, my hands shaking so badly I could barely work the deadbolt. Through the door, I heard her voice, still perfectly calm. "That was very rude. I just needed help." Then the doorknob started turning, slowly testing each lock, rattling against the mechanism. I backed away from the door, my phone in my hand, trying to decide if I should call 911 or the building manager or just hide in my bedroom. "I know you're scared," she said through the door, "but there's no reason to be. I live right across from you. We're neighbors. Neighbors help each other." The doorknob stopped turning. I heard footsteps moving away, padding softly across the carpet. I waited 5 minutes, then 10, then finally worked up the courage to look through the peephole again. The hallway was empty. Door 3A remained closed. Everything looked normal. I didn't sleep that night. In the morning, I went to the building manager and asked about the woman in 3A. He looked at me strangely and said 3A had been vacant for 3 months. The previous tenant, an elderly man, had died in the apartment from natural causes, and they were still cleaning it out before listing it again. I told him about the woman, about her white eyes and her request to use my phone. He got quiet, then asked me if I'd opened my door for her. I said yes, but I'd closed it again quickly. He looked relieved and said I'd done the right thing. Then he told me something that made my blood run cold. Apparently, I wasn't the first tenant to report seeing a woman outside 3A. It had happened to 3 other people over the years, always at night, always the same description. White nightgown, bare feet, long dark hair, and those white eyes. and every person who'd invited her into their apartment had moved out within a week. Not because they wanted to, but because they had to. Because once you let her in, she didn't leave. She'd appear in their apartments at random times, standing in corners, sitting on their furniture, staring at them with those milk-white eyes. One tenant had tried to physically remove her, and she'd grabbed his wrist. He said it felt like his hand had been plunged into ice water, and the cold spread up his arm so fast he thought his heart would stop. He'd passed out, and when he woke up, there were frostbite burns on his wrist in the exact shape of her fingers. The building manager said the only pattern they'd noticed was that she only appeared to people living directly across from 3A. Something about that apartment called to her, and she was looking for a way back in. I asked what happened to the people who let her inside. He said most of them were okay eventually after they moved out. But one woman had refused to leave her apartment even after the encounters started. She said it was her home and she wouldn't be driven out by some ghost or hallucination. They found her 3 weeks later, in her apartment, sitting on her couch, eyes open but not seeing anything. She wasn't dead, but she wasn't really alive either. Just staring at nothing, not responding to any stimulus. The doctors called it a catatonic state, but they couldn't explain what caused it. She's still in a care facility somewhere, unchanged, unreachable. And according to the building manager, when the police searched her apartment, every mirror in the place had been shattered from the inside, like something had punched through them from the reflected world. I moved out 2 days later, broke my lease, paid the penalty, and found a new place on the other side of town. I don't care what it cost me. I wasn't going to stay in that hallway, across from that door, waiting for the night I'd make a mistake. Because I know now that she'll come back. She always comes back, standing in the hallway, crying in that white nightgown, waiting for someone to open their door, waiting for someone to invite her in. Sometimes late at night, no matter where I am, I wake up and hear crying in the distance. Soft at first, then getting louder. And I lie there in the dark, wondering if I'm hearing an echo of that hallway, or if somehow she's found me again. I keep my door locked now, always, and I never, ever look through the peephole at 2 a.m. Story 2. The Wrong Uber. Jake Morrison here, 22 years old, college student at Arizona State. What happened to me last October changed the way I think about rideshare apps, about trusting strangers, about how easy it is to get into the wrong car. I was leaving a party in Tempe around 1 a.m., too drunk to drive and smart enough to call an Uber. I'd done this 100 times before. Open the app, request a ride, wait for the car to show up, check the license plate, get in. Simple, safe, routine. The app said my driver was named Derek, driving a gray Toyota Camry, license plate 6XJH294, ETA 3 minutes. I stood on the corner outside the party house, watching headlights pass, waiting for my ride. After about 5 minutes, a gray Camry pulled up to the curb right in front of me. I was drunk and tired, and I didn't check the plate. I just opened the back door and climbed in. "Jake?" the driver asked. "Yeah," I said, pulling the door shut. The interior smelled weird, like bleach and something else I couldn't identify. Something organic and unpleasant. "Perfect," he said. "Let's get you home." He pulled away from the curb, and I settled back in the seat, closing my eyes. The alcohol was hitting me hard, making the world spin a little, and I just wanted to get back to my apartment and pass out. After about 5 minutes, I realized we were going the wrong direction. My apartment was west of the party, toward campus, but we were heading east, away from the city lights, toward the empty desert roads outside Tempe. "Hey," I said, sitting up. "I think you're going the wrong way." "Don't worry about it," the driver said. "Taking a shortcut. Avoid traffic." There was no traffic. It was 1 a.m. on a Tuesday. I pulled out my phone to check the Uber app to see the route he was supposed to be taking. That's when I saw the notification. Derek is arriving in 2 minutes. My blood went cold. I looked up at the driver's rearview mirror, meeting his eyes. He was smiling, a wide, predatory smile that showed too many teeth. "You got in the wrong car, Jake," he said softly. "That happens sometimes. People are careless. They don't check. They just trust that the gray Camry in front of them is the right gray Camry." I tried the door handle. Child locked. I tried the window button. Disabled. I was trapped in the back seat of this car with a man who was driving me into the desert, away from lights and people and help. "Who are you?" I managed to say, my voice shaking. "Someone who pays attention," he said. "Someone who watches the parties, watches people call their Ubers, watches them stand on corners checking their phones. And then I just drive up at the right time in the right car, and people like you get in without thinking twice." He took a turn onto a dirt road. No streetlights here, just darkness and empty desert stretching out on both sides. "What do you want?" I asked. He didn't answer, just kept driving deeper into nothing. I looked at my phone. Still had signal, barely. I opened my messages and sent my location to my roommate with the text, "Wrong Sayar help." The driver saw me do it in the mirror. His smile disappeared. "That was stupid," he said. He pulled the car over, right there in the middle of the dirt road, and put it in park. Then he turned around in his seat to look at me directly. "Give me the phone," he said. I shook my head. "Give me the phone, or this gets much worse for you." I held the phone tighter. It was my only connection to the outside world, my only hope. He opened his door and got out. I watched in the mirror as he walked around to my side of the car, and I knew I had seconds to make a decision. Fight or comply, run or stay. When he opened my door, I kicked out as hard as I could. My foot caught him in the chest, and he stumbled backward. I threw myself out of the car and ran. The desert was dark and full of rocks and brush that tore at my clothes and skin. I could hear him behind me, running, calling out that I was making this harder than it needed to be, that I should just stop and accept what was happening. I kept running, my lungs burning, my legs threatening to give out. The alcohol was still in my system, making me clumsy and slow. I tripped over something and went down hard, my phone flying out of my hand. I scrambled toward it, my fingers closing around it just as he grabbed my ankle. "Got you," he breathed. I rolled over and hit him with the phone, right in the face. Hard enough that he let go, hard enough that I heard something crack. He fell backward, holding his nose, blood streaming between his fingers. I ran again, farther into the desert, no direction, no plan, just running. I don't know how long I ran. Could have been 10 minutes, could have been an hour. Eventually, I saw lights in the distance. A gas station, glowing like a beacon. I made it there with what felt like my last breath and collapsed inside, telling the clerk to call 911. The police came and I told them everything. They went looking for the gray Camry on that dirt road. They found it. Empty, abandoned, driver's door still open, but no sign of the driver. No fingerprints inside the car except mine. No registration, no plates, nothing that would tell them who owned it or where it came from. The VIN number traced back to a Toyota that had been reported stolen 3 weeks earlier from a parking lot in Phoenix. The owner said he'd left it for just 10 minutes while he ran into a store. When he came back, it was gone. The police told me I was lucky, that 3 other people had reported similar incidents over the past 6 months. People who'd ordered Ubers and accidentally gotten into similar-looking cars that pulled up at the same time. All of them had been driven to remote areas. 2 of them had managed to escape like me. 1 of them hadn't. They found his body 5 weeks after he disappeared. buried shallow in the desert near Apache Junction. The autopsy showed he'd been alive for at least 3 days after being taken. I don't use rideshare apps anymore. I don't care how drunk I am or how far I need to go. I call a friend, I call a cab company directly, I walk. Anything but standing on a corner staring at my phone, trusting that the car that pulls up is the car I ordered. Because I learned that night that predators have adapted. They've learned to use our trust against us, to exploit the moment of carelessness when we're too tired or too drunk to check the license plate. And somewhere out there, that man is still driving around, still watching parties, still waiting for the next person who'll get in without looking. Maybe he got another gray Camry. Maybe he's driving something else now, matching whatever the app says people are waiting for. Either way, he's out there, patient and careful and waiting. And next time, the person who gets in the wrong car might not be lucky enough to run. Story 3. The Doppelganger. My name is Maria Santos. I'm 31, and I need to tell you about the day I met myself. Not a look-alike, not a twin I never knew about. Myself. Exactly. Impossibly. I'm a nurse working night shifts at a hospital in Baltimore. It's a job that messes with your circadian rhythm and your sense of time, where 3 a.m. feels the same as 3 p.m. after a while. I'm used to being tired, used to seeing strange things in my peripheral vision when I've been awake too long. But what I saw wasn't exhaustion. It wasn't my mind playing tricks. It started 3 months ago. I was coming home from a shift around 7 a.m. Still dark outside because it was January and the sun rises late. I lived in a small house in a quiet neighborhood, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, where people wave when they pass on the street. As I pulled into my driveway, I saw someone standing on my porch, a woman in scrubs, holding a purse, reaching toward the door with her keys. I recognized the scrubs. They were mine, the same navy blue set I'd bought last month. The same little coffee stain on the right pocket from when a patient had knocked my cup over. I recognized the purse, black leather, slightly worn on one corner where I dropped it too many times. And I recognized the person, because it was me. She unlocked my door and went inside, into my house, using my keys. I sat in my car, hands frozen on the steering wheel, trying to process what I'd just seen. It wasn't possible. I was here in my car. I couldn't also be on my porch opening my door. I looked down at myself. Same navy scrubs, same coffee stain, same black purse on the passenger seat. 2 of me, both real, both solid. I pulled out my phone and called my mom, hands shaking so badly I could barely dial. She answered on the 3rd ring, groggy and confused. Maria? It's 7 in the morning, honey. Is everything okay? Mom, this is going to sound crazy, but I need you to listen. I just saw someone who looks exactly like me go into my house. What do I do? Silence. Then, what do you mean, exactly like you? I mean exactly. Same clothes, same everything. Mom, I'm scared. Call the police, she said immediately. Don't go inside. Stay in your car and call the police right now. I called 911 and told them someone had broken into my house. I didn't mention the part about her looking like me because I knew how that would sound. The dispatcher said officers were on their way and to stay in my vehicle. I sat there for 15 minutes watching my front door, waiting for movement. Nothing. The house looked quiet and normal. Curtains closed. No lights on inside. When the police arrived, 2 officers approached my car and asked me to describe what happened. I told them a woman had entered my house with what looked like keys, that she was wearing scrubs similar to mine. They asked if I lived alone. I said yes. They approached the house carefully, knocked on the door, announced themselves. No answer. They tried the door and found it unlocked. They went inside with their hands on their weapons. I waited in the car, barely breathing. They came out 5 minutes later looking confused. One of them approached me. "Ma'am, there's no one inside. The house is empty." "That's impossible," I said. "I watched her go in. She couldn't have left. I've been watching the door the whole time." "Is there a back door?" the officer asked. "Yes, but it's always locked from the inside. It's unlocked now and open. Looks like whoever was inside left that way." They checked the backyard, the neighboring yards, the whole area. Found nothing. No footprints in the frost-covered grass. No sign of anyone running away. Nothing. But here's what they did find, and this is the part that still makes my skin crawl. On my kitchen counter, there was a fresh cup of coffee. Still hot, steam rising from it. And next to it, my work badge from the hospital. The one I'd been wearing on my scrubs just minutes ago. I reached for my chest. My badge wasn't there. Somehow, between seeing her on my porch and now, my badge had ended up inside my house, sitting on my kitchen counter. The police had no explanation. Neither did I. They filed a report and suggested I change my locks and maybe install security cameras. I didn't go back to that house that night. Stayed with my mom instead, too terrified to sleep in a place where an impossible version of myself had been. 2 days later, it happened again. I was at work, doing my rounds in the ICU, when one of the other nurses grabbed my arm. "Maria, weren't you just in room 407? She asked. "No," I said. "I've been in this wing all morning. Haven't been to the 4th floor yet." She looked confused. "That's weird. I just saw you coming out of 407 like 5 minutes ago. You even waved at me." Ice ran down my spine. "Are you sure it was me?" "Yeah, you were wearing the exact same scrubs, had your hair up the same way. It was definitely you." I went to room 407. The patient there, an elderly man recovering from surgery, looked at me strangely when I entered. "Back already?" he asked. "What do you mean?" "You were just here. Checked my vitals, adjusted my 4. Don't you remember?" I checked the chart. Someone had updated it 10 minutes ago, documenting vitals and medication. The handwriting looked like mine. The signature looked like mine. But it wasn't me. I'd been 3 floors down the entire time. I reported it to my supervisor, told her someone was impersonating me, accessing patient rooms. Security reviewed the footage from the 4th floor. They found me on camera, walking down the hallway, entering room 407, coming out 5 minutes later. My face clear as day, my badge visible, my movements completely normal. But I hadn't been there. I had witnesses who could confirm I'd been in a different part of the hospital. "Maybe you just forgot?" my supervisor suggested gently. "You've been working a lot of overtime, Maria. Sometimes we go on autopilot." But I didn't forget. I knew where I'd been, and that wasn't me on that camera. The sightings continued. Over the next month, I was reported in places I'd never been. A coworker saw me leaving a restaurant I hadn't visited. My neighbor said I'd been in my backyard at midnight, just standing there, even though I'd been at work. My mom called saying I'd stopped by her house for just a minute but left before she could get to the door, even though I'd been in surgery assisting a doctor. Each time, the description was perfect. My clothes, my hair, my voice when people heard her speak. But it was never me. I started documenting everything. Where I was, who I was with, what I was doing. I took time-stamped photos of myself throughout the day to prove my location. I thought maybe I was losing my mind, that I had some kind of dissociative disorder, that maybe I really was in these places and couldn't remember. Then I saw her again. I was driving home from work, stopped at a red light, when a car pulled up next to mine. I glanced over casually, and the driver turned to look at me. It was me, sitting in the driver's seat of a Honda Civic I didn't own, wearing clothes I'd never bought, with a hairstyle slightly different from mine, We made eye contact. For just a second, we looked directly at each other. She smiled. Not a friendly smile. Something else. Something knowing and cruel. The light turned green. She drove off and I tried to follow, but she took a turn too fast and I lost her in traffic. I went to the police again, brought all my documentation, all my photos, all the witness statements from people who'd seen her. They listened politely, but I could see they thought I was mentally unstable. One officer even suggested I talk to a counselor about stress and paranoia. My mom believed me though. She said when I'd visited her house that day, something had been wrong. The way I'd moved, the way I'd looked at her through the window. She said my eyes had been wrong, flat and empty, like a doll's eyes. I don't know what she is. My doppelganger, my twin from another dimension, some kind of entity that feeds on identity. All I know is she's out there, living pieces of my life, showing up in my places, wearing my face. And the worst part? I think she's getting closer, showing up more frequently, staying longer, being seen by more people. Last week, my boss called me into her office and asked if everything was okay at home. She said I'd been acting strangely lately, that several coworkers had complained about my attitude changing. But none of the incidents she described had involved me. Every single one was her. My doppelganger, getting bolder, spending more time in my life, interacting with my coworkers, my friends, my family. She's not just appearing anymore. She's replacing me, piece by piece, moment by moment, taking over my existence while I watch helplessly. I don't know what happens when she's done. When she's convinced everyone that she's the real Maria Santos and I'm just some confused woman having a breakdown. Maybe I disappear. Maybe I wake up one day and find that I don't exist anymore, that she's taken my name, my job, my life completely. Or maybe worse. Maybe we switch. Maybe I become the doppelganger, doomed to watch her live my life from the outside, showing up in places I can't explain, being seen but never believed. I'm writing this down because I need there to be a record, in case one day I'm not me anymore, in case she wins. If you see me somewhere I shouldn't be, if I wave at you but my eyes look wrong, if I speak but something feels off about my voice, please remember this. It might not be me. It might be her. And if it is, I'm sorry for whatever she does wearing my face. I'm still fighting, still documenting, still trying to prove that I'm real and she's the imposter. But I can feel her getting closer, and I'm running out of time. Story 4. The Thing in the Attic. Brandon Fuller, 29 years old, and I haven't slept properly in 8 months. Not since I bought the house on Maple Street and found out what was living in the attic. The house was a steal, honestly. 3 bedrooms, original hardwood floors, in a decent neighborhood. The only catch was that it had been on the market for 2 years, price dropping every few months. The realtor said the previous owners had to relocate quickly for work. Gave me some story about a job transfer to Singapore. Couldn't wait for the house to sell. I found out later that was a lie. The previous owners had left in the middle of the night with whatever they could carry, abandoned most of their furniture and never came back. Not even for the closing paperwork. They sent a lawyer to handle everything remotely. But I didn't know that when I moved in. I was just excited to own my first house. The noises started on the 3rd night. Scratching sounds from above my bedroom, like something dragging across the attic floor. I figured it was squirrels or raccoons and made a note to call pest control in the morning. The next night, the scratching was louder and more deliberate. Not the random scurrying of animals, but a steady back and forth movement, like someone pacing. I went up to the attic to investigate. The entrance was a pull-down ladder in the hallway ceiling, and when I climbed up with my flashlight, I found exactly what you'd expect. Dust, old insulation, exposed rafters, and in the far corner, a pile of boxes that the previous owners had left behind. Nothing unusual. Nothing that explained the sounds. But as I was turning to leave, my flashlight beam swept across something scratched into the wooden floor near the entrance. Words carved deep into the planks. "Don't look up." The letters were rough and uneven, done in a hurry, and there was something that looked like dried blood in the grooves. I stood there for a long moment, my heart pounding, staring at those words. Then, like an idiot, I looked up. The rafters were empty, just darkness and cobwebs. Nothing there. I went back downstairs and told myself it was some prank the previous owners had left. A joke meant to scare the next tenant. I tried to laugh it off. That night, the scratching was directly above my bed. So loud it woke me up at 2 a.m. I lay there in the dark, listening to it move back and forth, like someone pacing anxiously. Then it stopped. Complete silence. And I heard a voice, quiet, coming from somewhere above me. "Is someone down there?" I didn't answer, didn't move, just lay there frozen. "I know you're down there. I can hear you breathing." The voice was wrong. It sounded human, but the cadence was off, like someone who'd learned to speak by listening to recordings and didn't quite understand how natural speech worked. "Please," it said. "I'm so lonely up here." Every instinct I had screamed at me not to respond. But against my better judgment, I called up toward the ceiling. "Who are you?" Silence. Then, "I don't remember. I've been here so long. Will you come see me?" "No," I said. "Please. I'm trapped. Can't get down. If you could just open the attic door, I could come down and we could talk properly." Something about the way it said that made my skin crawl. The eagerness underneath the words, the hunger. "I'm calling the police," I said. It laughed. Not a human laugh, but something that approximated laughter, like it had heard the sound once and was trying to recreate it. "They can't help you. They never believe. They'll come. They'll look. They'll find nothing. And then you'll be alone with me again." I called 911 anyway, told them someone had broken into my attic. 2 officers arrived within 15 minutes, and I let them in, explaining what I'd heard. They went up to the attic with their flashlights and their weapons drawn. I waited at the bottom of the ladder, listening to their footsteps creaking across the boards above. They came down 5 minutes later looking confused. "Sir, there's nobody up there," one of them said. "Just some old boxes and dust." "Did you see the words carved in the floor?" I asked. "Near the entrance?" They looked at each other. "What words?" I climbed up with them, and we went back to where I'd seen the warning. The floor was smooth and unmarked. No carving, no message, nothing. "It was right here," I insisted. It said, "Don't look up." The officers exchanged a glance that clearly said they thought I was wasting their time or having some kind of mental episode. "Maybe you had a nightmare?" one suggested. "Old houses make strange sounds. Could have been the pipes or the house settling." They left, and I was alone again with whatever was in my attic. I didn't sleep that night, just sat in my living room with every light on, listening. Around 4 a.m., I heard it again. The voice, calling down through the ceiling. "They didn't believe you. I told you they wouldn't." I didn't respond. "I'm still here. I'm always here. And eventually you'll come up to see me." They always do. They try to ignore me at first, but the loneliness gets to them. The wondering. The need to understand what I am. "What are you?" I asked before I could stop myself. "Come up and see." "No. I'll wait. I'm very patient. I've been waiting for years." The next day I called a priest. Yes, a priest. I know how that sounds, but I was desperate and terrified and running out of rational options. Father Michael came to the house and blessed every room. He went up to the attic and performed what he called a cleansing ritual. He said he felt a presence up there, something old and angry, but that his blessing should help. That night was quiet, completely quiet. No scratching, no voice, nothing. I allowed myself to hope that whatever it was had left. Then on the second night after the blessing, it came back. But different now, angrier. The scratching was violent, tearing sounds like it was trying to claw through the ceiling. And the voice, when it came, was no longer trying to sound friendly. You tried to send me away. You brought that man with his water and his words. That was very rude. I could hear it moving around up there, hear things being thrown, boxes hitting walls. I don't like priests. They think they can make me leave. But this is my house. I was here before you. I was here before the others. I'll be here after you're gone. Something crashed directly above my bedroom, loud enough to shake the light fixture. Do you want to know why they left? The family before you? Let me tell you a story. I put my pillow over my head, trying to block out the voice, but it continued, coming through the ceiling, through the walls, from everywhere. They had a daughter, sweet little girl, 7 years old. She heard me too, but children are braver than adults, more curious. One day while her parents were at work, she climbed up to see me. I took the pillow off my head. What did you do to her? What do you think I did? She came up. She looked around. She asked where I was. And I showed her. I let her see me. Really see me. Where is she now? Gone. They found her 3 days later, sitting in her room, staring at the ceiling. Hasn't spoken since. Hasn't moved. Just stares up, seeing me over and over in her mind. The doctors call it catatonia, but it's not. She's just stuck in the moment she looked at me. Forever. I packed a bag that night and left. Went to a hotel, called a real estate agent, put the house back on the market. I didn't care about the money I'd lose. I just wanted out. But here's the thing about malevolent entities. Sometimes they don't stay where you leave them. I've been living in an apartment for 8 months now. Different part of town, different building, 4th floor with no attic anywhere near me. But 2 weeks ago, I woke up at 2 a.m. to scratching sounds above my bedroom, coming from the ceiling of the apartment above mine. And I heard the voice, quiet but unmistakable. Did you think you could leave me? I told you, I'm very patient. The scratching has been getting louder every night. And yesterday, when I came home from work, my neighbor from upstairs stopped me in the hallway. She's an elderly woman, sweet and kind, and she looked concerned. Brandon, she said, I think you should know. There's been someone in the crawl space above your apartment. I can hear them moving around up there when I'm in my place. Have you noticed anything? I told her no, even though I'd heard it every single night. Maybe you should call the landlord, she suggested. It might be homeless people breaking in. Could be dangerous. I thanked her and went into my apartment. Stood there in my living room, looking up at the ceiling, knowing what was up there in that crawl space. Knowing it had followed me. Last night I heard it clearly. I'm closer now, much closer. And soon you're going to want to see me. The curiosity is eating at you. You can feel it. What am I? What do I look like? What did that little girl see that broke her mind? And here's the terrible truth. It's right. I do want to know. Despite everything, despite the fear, there's a part of me that needs to understand what it is. I've been staring at the ceiling access panel in my hallway closet. Just a simple square panel, easy to push up and climb through. It would take 30 seconds to get a ladder and look. Just one look. Just to know. Just to understand. But I remember the message carved into my old attic floor. Don't look up. And I remember that little girl, staring at nothing, trapped forever in the moment she saw it. I'm writing this as a warning, or maybe as a confession, because I can feel my resolve weakening. The curiosity is getting stronger, turning from a whisper into a need. And I know sooner or later, probably sooner, I'm going to climb up there. I'm going to look. And when I do, I hope someone finds this and understands what happened to me. Why I stopped answering calls. Why I stopped going to work. Why they'll find me sitting in my apartment, eyes open, staring at the ceiling, seeing something nobody else can see. Something that should never be seen. The scratching is starting again. It's only 9 p.m., much earlier than usual. And the voice is calling, "Tonight. I think tonight you'll come. I can feel it. You're ready. You want to know. Come up, Brandon. Come see. I promise it will be the last thing you ever need to see." Story 5, The Wrong Room. I'm Linda Hayes. I work in hospitality, and I've been a hotel manager for 15 years across 4 different properties. I thought I'd seen every kind of guest, every kind of situation, every kind of weirdness that can happen in a hotel. Then I worked the night shift at the Riverside Inn and learned that some rooms aren't for sleeping. The Riverside was an older property, built in the 1960s, for stories, 120 rooms. The kind of place that needed updating, but had enough charm to keep budget-conscious guests coming back. I'd been managing it for 6 months when the incident started. It was always the same room, 304. 3rd floor, middle of the hallway, nothing special about it. Standard queen bed, dresser, TV, bathroom. Same as every other room in the building. But guests kept calling the front desk from 304 in the middle of the night. Always between 2 and 4 a.m., always with the same complaint. Someone was knocking on their door. The first time it happened, I sent our night security guy, Harold, up to check. He knocked on the neighboring rooms, asked if anyone had been in the hallway. Nobody had heard or seen anything. He checked the hallway cameras, and they showed nothing. Empty corridor all night. I apologized to the guest, a businessman from Kansas City, and offered him a different room. He took it, grateful, and I thought that was the end of it. 2 weeks later, it happened again. Different guest, same room, same complaint. Someone knocking at 3 a.m. Harold went up, found nothing, cameras showed nothing. We moved that guest too. Kept happening. Once or twice a month, whoever stayed in 304 would call to complain about the knocking. Always the same pattern. They'd be woken by knocking, they'd look through the peephole, see an empty hallway, call the desk. By the time we got up there, the knocking had stopped. After the 5th incident, I decided to stay in 300 for myself. Figure out what was happening, whether it was a plumbing issue or sound carrying from another room or what. I checked in at 11 p.m., bringing my laptop and some work to keep me busy. Told Harold to keep an eye on the hallway camera and call me if he saw anyone approaching my door. The room felt normal. A little cold maybe, but these old buildings always had temperature issues. I worked for a couple hours, then lay down on the bed fully clothed, planning to doze lightly and wake up if anything happened. The knocking started at 2:47 a.m. 3 sharp raps on the door, loud enough to jolt me awake. I sat up, heart racing, and stared at the door. 3 more knocks, patient, evenly spaced. I crept to the door and looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty, but even as I watched, 3 more knocks came, so loud and so close it felt like whoever was doing it should be visible right there in front of the peephole. I opened the door fast, thinking I'd catch someone running away. The hallway was empty, completely empty, and silent. I called down to Harold. "Did you see anyone on the camera?" "No," he said. "Hallway's been clear all night. Are you hearing the knocking?" "Yeah, it's happening right now." "Should I come up?" "No, 3 more knocks. Right behind me, inside the room. I spun around. The room was empty. I was alone. But the knocking had definitely come from inside, from somewhere near the bathroom. "Linda." Harold's voice crackled through my phone. "You still there?" "Yeah," I whispered. "Harold, I think it's inside the room. What? The bathroom door, which I'd left open, slowly swung closed. No wind, no draft, just a slow, deliberate movement until it clicked shut. I stood there frozen, staring at that closed door. 3 knocks came from the other side of it, from inside the bathroom. "I'm coming up," Harold said, and the line went dead. I should have left, should have walked out of that room immediately. But I was the manager, and I needed to understand what was happening in my hotel. I approached the bathroom door, put my hand on the knob. It was ice cold. "Hello," I called out, feeling ridiculous. "Is someone in there?" The knocking stopped. Then I heard water running. The sink turned on full blast. I opened the door. The bathroom was empty. The sink was running, water gushing out full force. But there was something in the sink. Something that made my stomach lurch. Red water. Not rust-colored, but bright red, like blood. Pouring from the faucet, filling the sink, starting to overflow onto the floor. I reached out and turned the faucet off. The red water drained away, and when I looked closely, there was no stain, no residue. The sink was clean and white. Harold burst into the room behind me. "Linda, what's happening?" I turned to tell him about the water, but the words died in my throat. In the bathroom mirror, I could see the reflection of the room behind me. And in that reflection, there was someone standing in the corner. A woman in a white nightgown, her hair hanging over her face, her hands clasped in front of her. I spun around. The corner was empty. I looked back at the mirror. She was still there in the reflection, standing in a spot where nobody stood in the actual room. "Harold," I whispered, "do you see that?" He looked at the mirror and his face went pale. Jesus Christ. As we watched, the woman in the reflection raised her head. Her face was wrong, not damaged or deformed, but arranged in a way that didn't make sense, like looking at a Picasso painting where all the features were in the wrong places. She started walking toward us. In the mirror, moving closer and closer, even though the actual room behind us remained empty. We backed away from the mirror, and the moment we crossed the threshold out of the bathroom, the image disappeared. The mirror showed only a normal empty bathroom. We got out of that room and I locked it immediately. Called the owner, told him we had a serious problem in 304. He sighed like I just told him about a leaky faucet and said, "It's happening again? Again." The previous manager dealt with this. That's why she quit, actually. Said she couldn't handle it anymore. He told me the story. Back in 1987, a woman named Patricia Cole had stayed in room 304. She was traveling alone, some kind of business trip. The housekeepers found her 3 days after checkout time, still in the room, still in bed. She hadn't checked out, hadn't left, just stayed in that bed until she died of dehydration and starvation. Her eyes open, staring at the bathroom door. The autopsy showed no signs of restraint, no indication she'd been held against her will. She simply hadn't left, hadn't called for help, just lay there until her body gave out. The coroner ruled it some kind of psychotic break or catatonic episode. But the night manager at the time, a woman who'd found Patricia's body, quit the next day and told the owner that something was wrong with that room, that it didn't want people to leave. "We've tried priests, mediums, even had the room completely renovated," the owner said. "Nothing works. Whatever's in there stays. We just try to minimize who gets assigned to it." "Why don't you take it off the market?" I asked. "Can't afford to lose the revenue. Times are tough. Just keep giving refunds to anyone who complains and move them to a different room." Most people don't complain, honestly. They just have a bad night and check out in the morning. I quit 2 weeks later. Couldn't keep working at a place that knowingly put guests in a haunted room just to save money. But here's the part that still keeps me up at night. I looked into Patricia Cole's background, wanted to understand what happened to her, why she stayed in that room until she died. I found old newspaper articles about her life. She'd been a successful sales executive, traveling constantly for work, always in hotels. Never married, few friends, most of her life spent in temporary rooms in temporary cities. And I found her travel records for the months before she died. She'd stayed at the Riverside Inn multiple times before. Different rooms, different visits, all normal. But on her last visit, she'd requested room 304 specifically. Called ahead to make sure she got that exact room. Like she'd been there before and wanted to go back. Like the room had called to her somehow, and she'd answered. I don't know what's in room 304. Don't know if it's a ghost or something else. Some kind of presence that feeds on isolation and loneliness and the anonymity of hotel life. But I know it's still there. Still knocking on doors at 2 a.m. Still reflected in mirrors where it shouldn't be. Still waiting for someone who'll stay, who won't leave, who'll lie in that bed and stare at the bathroom door until they become part of the room forever. The Riverside Inn is still operating. Still renting out room 304 to anyone who books it. If you ever stay there, if you check in and they give you a key to the 3rd floor, check the room number before you go up. And if it's 304, ask for a different room. Insist on it. Don't let them tell you it's fine or that it's all booked up. Because once you're inside, once that door closes behind you, the room might decide it wants you to stay. And you'll hear the knocking. And you'll see the woman in the mirror. And you'll feel that pull, that strange compulsion to just lie down on the bed and wait. Wait for whatever the room wants, whatever it needs, whatever feeds on the lonely people who pass through temporary spaces and leave no trace behind. Story 6. The Missed Call. Tyler Jackson, 25, software developer. And I need to tell you about the phone call I received from my own number. 3 months ago, I was working late at the office, alone on the 4th floor because I'd volunteered to finish up a project before a morning deadline. It was around 11 p.m. Everyone else had gone home hours ago, and the building had that eerie emptiness that offices get after dark. My phone rang. I glanced at the screen and my blood went cold. The caller ID showed my own number. I was calling myself. I stared at it for 3 rings, trying to logic it out. Must be a spoof, some scam where they fake the number to make you answer. I'd heard about those. I let it go to voicemail. 30 seconds later, my voicemail notification chimed. Against my better judgment, I listened to it. It was my voice. Not similar, not close. My exact voice with my speech patterns, my cadence, everything. Tyler, it's you. I mean me. I mean fuck. This is complicated. Listen carefully. Whatever you do, don't stay at the office past midnight. Leave now. Go straight home, lock your doors, and don't answer any calls tonight. Especially not from yourself. I know how this sounds, but you have to trust me. Please. The message ended. I sat there staring at my phone, trying to process what I just heard. It was clearly a prank. Had to be. Maybe one of my coworkers had recorded me somehow and was messing with me. But the fear in that voice had sounded genuine. Desperate. I looked at the time. 11:17 p.m. According to the message, I had 43 minutes before something bad happened. I tried calling back my own number. It rang once and went straight to voicemail. My voicemail. I heard my own voice. Hey, this is Tyler. Can't come to the phone right now. I hung up and texted my roommate. Did you call me from my number tonight? No response. He was probably asleep. I told myself I was being ridiculous. It was a spam call with sophisticated voice cloning tech. That stuff existed now. I'd literally read an article about it last month. I went back to work, but I couldn't concentrate. Kept checking the time. 11:24. 11:31. 11:38. At 11:45, I decided to leave. Not because I believed the message, but because I was too distracted to get anything done. I packed up my laptop and headed for the elevators. The building was dead silent. My footsteps echoed on the tile floors. I pressed the elevator button and waited. Behind me, I heard a door open. I turned and saw a figure at the far end of the hallway, silhouetted against the emergency exit lights. He was wearing clothes like mine. Same hoodie, same jeans, same build. He started walking toward me, and as he got closer, I could see his face. It was my face. I watched myself walk down the hallway toward me, and every rational part of my brain short-circuited. This wasn't possible. Couldn't be real. I was hallucinating, having some kind of mental breakdown from stress and lack of sleep. "You didn't leave," he said when he got close enough. His voice was my voice. "I told you to leave." "What are you?" I managed to ask. "What do you think I am?" "I'm you, from about 4 hours in your future. And if you don't get out of this building in the next 6 minutes, we're both going to die." The elevator dinged. The doors opened. "Don't get in that," future me said. "Take the stairs. Move. Now." I ran for the stairwell, not because I believed him, but because my body decided on its own that standing still was worse than moving. He followed me, his footsteps matching mine exactly. "What's happening?" I asked as we pounded down the stairs. "I don't fully understand it. All I know is that at midnight something comes through. Something that's been waiting. And it takes whoever's in the building." "Takes them where?" "I don't know. I didn't stick around to find out." I got to my car at 11:59, and when I looked back at the building, I saw something moving in the windows. All of them, every floor. Something dark flowing through the hallways like smoke. And then I saw you, me, running down the stairs, trying to get out. That doesn't make sense. If you got out, why am I seeing you now? Because I came back. Had to warn you. Thought maybe if I could change it, could make sure you left earlier, the whole timeline would shift and this wouldn't happen. We hit the ground floor and burst through the door into the lobby. The security guard who was usually at the desk was gone. Just an empty chair and a half-eaten sandwich. "Where's Mike?" I asked. The night guard, always there, always friendly. "I don't know. He was gone in my timeline too. We need to get to your car." We ran through the lobby toward the parking garage entrance. I could see my Honda Civic on the second level, right where I'd parked it that morning. Future me grabbed my arm. "Wait, look at the time." I checked my phone. 11:58. "We're not going to make it to the car," he said. "The garage connects to the building. Whatever comes through will flow into there too. Then what do we do?" "Run. Get as far away as you can. Across the street, into the neighborhood, anywhere but here." We pushed through the front doors and into the cool night air. Started running across the parking lot toward the street. Behind us, I heard glass breaking. Multiple windows all at once, exploding outward from the building. I looked back. Every window on every floor was shattered, and something was pouring out. Not smoke, not liquid, but something else. Something dark and writhing that moved like it had purpose. It was reaching toward the ground, toward the parking lot, toward us. "Don't look at it," future me shouted. "Just run." We made it across the street and kept running into a residential area, between houses, not stopping until we were 4 blocks away. I bent over, gasping for breath, my heart hammering. When I finally looked up, future me was gone, just vanished, like he'd never been there. I was alone on a dark street, for blocks from my office, with no car and no way to explain what I'd just seen. I walked home. Took me 2 hours. When I got there, my roommate was asleep and everything was normal. In the morning, I called the office. The receptionist answered cheerfully, said good morning, asked if I was coming in. Is everything okay there? I asked. Of course. Why wouldn't it be? Are the windows broken? What? No, everything's fine. Are you feeling all right, Tyler? I went to the office later that day. All the windows were intact. The security guard was at his desk, alive and well. My car was in the parking garage exactly where I'd left it. It was like nothing had happened, but I know it did. I saw myself from the future. I saw that thing pouring out of the building. I heard the glass breaking. Or did I? Nobody else saw anything. The security cameras showed me working at my desk until 11:45, then leaving normally through the front door alone. No figure in the hallway. No broken windows. No running. The cameras showed me leaving the building at 11:51 and walking to the street. Then the footage just ended. Static for 3 minutes. Then it came back showing an empty street. I don't know what happened during those 3 minutes. Don't know if I actually ran or if something else occurred. But here's what I can't explain. When I got home that night and checked my call history, the call from my own number was still there. 11:08 p.m., 1 minute duration. And the voicemail was still saved. I've listened to it 100 times since then. It's my voice warning me not to stay past midnight. And in the background of the recording, very faint, I can hear something else. Breaking glass, and a sound like wind rushing through empty spaces. And my own voice screaming. I don't work late anymore. I leave at 5 p.m. every day, no exceptions. And if my phone ever rings showing my own number again, I'm not answering. Because I think something did happen that night. Something that somehow didn't happen. And part of me is still back there. Still in that building. Still running through hallways while something dark and impossible flows through the broken windows. Still trying to warn myself to leave before it's too late. Story 7. The Vanishing Hitchhiker. Carmen Rodriguez, 33, truck driver with 8 years on the road. I've picked up a lot of hitchhikers in my time, even though company policy says not to. Most of them are just people down on their luck, needing a ride to the next town. But one of them was something else entirely. This happened last September on Highway 50 in Nevada, that lonely stretch they call the loneliest road in America. I was hauling freight from Reno to Ely, middle of the night, nothing but darkness and desert on both sides. Around 2 a.m., my headlights caught someone standing on the shoulder. A young woman, maybe early 20s, with her thumb out. She wore jeans and a red jacket, had a backpack at her feet. I slowed down. I shouldn't have, but something about seeing anyone out there in the middle of absolute nowhere made me worried for her safety. I pulled over and rolled down my passenger window. "You need a ride?" She smiled, grateful. "That would be amazing. Thank you so much." She climbed up into the cab, settling her backpack between her feet. Up close, she looked tired but otherwise normal. Pretty girl, dark hair, friendly demeanor. "Where you headed?" I asked. "Ely. How far are you going?" "Ely's my stop." "Perfect." We pulled back onto the highway, and she thanked me again. Said she'd been waiting for almost 3 hours and was starting to think nobody would stop. "What are you doing out here?" I asked. "This isn't exactly a busy road. Car broke down about 10 miles back. Phone's dead. Couldn't call for help. Started walking and figured I'd try hitchhiking." It was a reasonable story. I'd seen broken down cars on this stretch plenty of times. We talked for a while. She said her name was Emma, that she was driving across the country after graduating college, wanted to see America before settling into a real job. Normal conversation. Nothing weird. About 20 minutes into the drive, I glanced over and noticed something strange. Emma wasn't moving at all. Not fidgeting, not shifting position, not even breathing as far as I could tell. Just sitting perfectly still, staring straight ahead. "Emma?" You okay? She didn't respond, didn't blink. I reached over and touched her shoulder. Hey, Emma. The moment my hand made contact, she turned her head toward me. The movement was wrong, too smooth, too fast, like a mannequin being rotated. Don't touch me, she said. Her voice had changed. Flat, emotionless. Sorry, You seemed zoned out. She turned back to face forward, and we drove in silence for a few minutes. I kept sneaking glances at her, and each time I looked, something seemed off. Her position was slightly different, but I never saw her move, like she was jumping between poses without the transition. Can I ask you something? She said suddenly. Sure. What year is it? I laughed nervously. What? What year is it? She repeated. It's 2023. Why? She was quiet for a long moment. Then, that can't be right. Why not? Because I graduated college in 2001. A chill ran down my spine. That's impossible. You're like 22. I was 22, she said softly. In 2001. I was driving across the country after graduation. My car broke down on Highway 50. I started walking. Someone picked me up. She turned to look at me again, and her eyes were wrong. Hollow and distant, like she was looking at something very far away. They said they'd take me to Ely, but we never got there. We kept driving and driving, and the sun never came up. Hours passed, then days maybe, and we were always on the same empty highway. And then I realized I wasn't in their truck anymore. I was standing on the side of the road again with my thumb out, waiting for the next ride. Emma, you're scaring me. That's happened 74 times now. Someone stops, I get in, we drive for a while, and then I'm back on the shoulder. Over and over. Same stretch of highway. Same night. Forever. I didn't know what to say. Was she mentally ill? On drugs? Was this some elaborate prank? You think I'm crazy, she said. I think you need help. Look in your mirror. I glanced in the rearview mirror, checking the road behind us. The highway was gone. We weren't driving on asphalt anymore. We were moving through darkness, complete and absolute darkness, and my headlights didn't reach more than a few feet ahead. What the fuck? I hit the brakes. The truck didn't slow down. The pedal went to the floor, but our speed didn't change. It's too late, Emma said. Once you pick me up, you're part of it. We'll drive until you can't drive anymore. And then you'll be standing on the side of the road too, waiting for someone to stop. Waiting to drive this same stretch of highway forever. I tried the door. Locked. Windows wouldn't roll down. Radio was dead. We drove through that darkness for what felt like hours. No signs, no markers, nothing but black outside the windows. Emma sat perfectly still the entire time, not moving, not speaking. Then suddenly we were back on Highway 50. Normal night, normal stars, normal desert landscape. I looked at the passenger seat. Emma was gone. Her backpack, her presence, everything. Like she'd never been there. I checked my GPS. I was exactly where I should be according to my timeline. Like no time had passed at all during that drive through darkness. But my fuel gauge had dropped from 3/4 to nearly empty, like I'd driven hundreds of miles. I made it to Ely on fumes, filled up at a truck stop, and tried to make sense of what happened. Later, I did some research, found an old news article from 2001 about a college graduate named Emma Louise Hartley who went missing on Highway 50 in Nevada. She'd been driving cross-country, called her parents from Reno to say she was headed to Ely. She never arrived. Her car was found abandoned on the shoulder with a dead battery. No sign of Emma. She was never seen again. The article included a photo. It was her, the same girl I'd picked up. I reported it to the police, told them everything. They were polite but skeptical. Said lots of people claimed to see her over the years, that Highway 50 had a reputation for ghost stories. I haven't picked up any hitchhikers since. Won't even slow down if I see someone on the shoulder. Because I think Emma was telling the truth. I think something happened to her on that highway in 2001. Something that trapped her in an endless loop. And anyone who stops to help her gets pulled into it too. Driving through that darkness, burning fuel and miles that don't exist, getting closer and closer to becoming another ghost on Highway 50. Sometimes when I drive that stretch at night, I see her in my headlights, standing on the shoulder in her red jacket, thumb out, backpack at her feet. And I keep driving. I don't stop. I don't slow down. Because I know if I pick her up again, I might not make it back to the real highway next time. I might end up standing on that shoulder myself, watching headlights approach, hoping someone will stop, hoping for a ride that will never end. Story 8. The Last Message. Rebecca Torres, 28. And I need to tell you about the text messages I received after my best friend died. Jenna Collins was my best friend since middle school. We'd been through everything together, and when she got sick with cancer at 26, I was with her through every treatment, every hospital stay, every terrifying moment. She died on March 15, 2023. Peaceful, surrounded by family, holding my hand. I was devastated, lost. The world felt wrong without her in it. 3 days after her death, during her funeral, my phone buzzed with a text message. From Jenna. My heart stopped. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands. The message said, "I'm so sorry I'm late. Traffic was terrible. Where are you?" I stared at it, my mind refusing to process what I was seeing. This had to be some delayed message, something she'd scheduled before she died. A final goodbye she'd set up to send later. I texted back, "Jenna." 3 dots appeared immediately, showing she was typing. "Yeah, it's me. Are you mad? I know I'm super late, but I'm on my way." This wasn't possible. I was sitting in her funeral, looking at her casket. This couldn't be happening. I typed, "Jenna, you died." Long pause. Then, "What? No, I didn't. I'm in my car right now." "Where are you?" "I'm at your funeral. You died 3 days ago." "This isn't funny. Becca, I'm not joking. I'm alive. I'm driving to meet you right now. Where are you?" I showed the text to Jenna's mom, sitting next to me. She looked at them and started crying harder, said it must be someone's sick prank, that someone had gotten Jenna's phone. But Jenna's phone was in her mother's purse, turned off. They'd kept it after she died. I got up and walked outside, hands shaking, and called Jenna's number. It rang, and then she answered. "Becca?" It was her voice. Exactly her voice. "Thank God. I've been trying to reach you. Where are you?" "Jenna, where are you?" "I'm in my car. I told you. I'm trying to find you, but everything looks weird. The streets aren't right. Nothing's where it should be." "What do you mean?" "I mean, I've been driving for an hour and I keep passing the same places over and over. And there's nobody else on the road. No other cars, no people walking, nothing. It's like the whole city is empty." My skin prickled. "Jenna, what's the last thing you remember?" "I remember. I was at the hospital. You were there. We were talking. You were holding my hand and I was so tired. And you told me to rest. And I closed my eyes." Her voice broke. "Oh God, Becca, did I die? Is that what happened?" I couldn't speak, couldn't answer. "Becca, please, tell me what's happening." "You died," I whispered. 3 days ago. I'm at your funeral right now." Silence on the line. Then, "But I'm still here. I'm still driving. I'm still trying to find you. I don't understand." "Neither do I." "Becca, I'm scared. I've been driving through this empty city for I don't know how long and I can't find my way out. Every road leads back to the same places. Every turn takes me in circles. And it's getting dark. Really dark. Like darker than night should be. I could hear the panic in her voice, the fear, and it sounded so real. "What should I do?" she asked. "I don't know. I don't know what this is. Tell me where you are. If I can just find you, maybe this will make sense." I told her the name of the funeral home. Heard her GPS activating in the background. "Okay," she said. "It says it's only 10 minutes away. I'm coming to you. Just wait for me." She hung up. I stood outside the funeral home for 40 minutes, staring at the street, waiting for her car to appear. It never did. Instead, my phone buzzed with another text. "I can't find you. The GPS took me to the address, but there's nothing here. Just an empty lot. Becca, where are you really?" I sent her a photo of myself standing outside the funeral home, the sign clearly visible behind me. She sent back, "That's not what I see. I'm at the same address, but it's just an empty lot. Broken concrete and weeds. Like the building was torn down years ago." Over the next week, the texts and calls continued. Jenna, trapped in some version of the city that wasn't quite right, trying desperately to find her way back, to find me, to understand what was happening to her. She described driving through streets that looked familiar but wrong, buildings in the wrong places, signs for businesses that had closed decades ago, and always empty. No people, no other cars, no life anywhere. "I think I'm in some kind of in-between place," she texted one night. "Like I'm not fully gone, but I can't come back either. I'm stuck driving in circles through a city that doesn't exist anymore." I asked her what she saw when she looked at herself. Long pause. Then, "I look the same, but when I see my reflection in the rearview mirror, sometimes it's not me. Sometimes it's something else. Something that's wearing my face but isn't me. It scares me when that happens." The texts came less frequently after that. Days would pass between messages. When they did come, they were more confused, more fragmented. "Where am I? Can't remember your name. Been driving so long. It's following me now." That last message terrified me. I called immediately. She answered, and I could hear her breathing hard, panicked. "What's following you?" "I don't know. It's in the back seat. I can see it in the mirror. It's dark. It doesn't have a shape, but it's getting closer. Jenna, pull over. Get out of the car. I can't stop. If I stop, it'll catch me. I have to keep driving." "Where are you going?" "I don't know. Away. Anywhere but here. Becca, I'm so tired. I've been driving for so long and I just want to rest, but I can't stop, I can't stop, I can't." The line went dead. I tried calling back. Got her voicemail. The text stopped coming. No more messages, no more calls. Nothing. It's been 4 months now. Sometimes, late at night, my phone will buzz and I'll see her name on the screen. But when I check, there's no message. Just the notification, ghosting across my lock screen before disappearing. I don't know where Jenna is. Don't know if she's still driving through that empty city, still trying to find her way back, still running from whatever was in her back seat, or if she finally stopped, finally gave up, and let whatever was following her catch up. But I hope, whatever happened, she found peace, found rest, found an end to the road.